I tell them all the time, I'm like, guys, look, I love technology. It's great. I would also throw my phone in the ocean and go back in a heartbeat. The internet
Exactly.
has done incredible
Yeah.
things for the world and ruined everything. Welcome to Not Right Now, the podcast about parenting through all of this. Hey, it's Quinn. Claire and I have a guest today on Not Right Now. I did not know this gentleman prior to when we recorded, so super excited to have gotten to know him. I recorded this intro later. It's a whole thing. Anyways, our guest today is AJ Daulerio. AJ's a dad, and I'm going to read a little bit about his show, his cathartic output called The Smobo. Here's from his About page. In 2016, AJ Daulerio completed a stint at a Florida rehab facility and left feeling severely depressed. He typed into Google, "I'm 50 days sober and I want to run into traffic." What came up were ads for rehab programs, the suicide hotline, and an AP story about Demi Lovato, again, 2016. And that's when he started thinking about what would eventually become the Smallbo, which is a community. It is posts, as they say here, spare, elegant, witty essays about the stuff at the heart of substance abuse, a search for meaning, grappling with fear, longing for joy and connection, which they have really built out here in a very vulnerable, outright way. And I really love this conversation. We're going to learn from it because coping is fucking hard. It's one of the first things we talked about. So hope you enjoy this combo with AJ.
AJ, meet Quinn. Quinn is one of my online guy friends that I've been collecting for some reason across the decades. And you guys both have very similar lives, that you had kids all at the same time. Quinn used to live in LA. You guys both are married to strong, funny female screenwriters, and you're both from the East Coast.
Beards and hats.
Yeah, beards and hats.
I didn't wear my hoodie today, thank God.
Yeah. But welcome to podcast life, AJ. How is podcasting treating you lately? What have you been learning on the fly? What's been working?
Do you regret it yet?
No, I mean, I'm at episode maybe 65, 66, but I think in terms of the on-camera stuff, and it's in studio, there are 6 cameras, and we've got mission control and people doing stuff. And I thought that, interviewing people in person and then being on camera would just, I didn't think I'd ever get used to it. But it took 2 episodes, and now I don't care at all, and I prefer in-person interviews. It didn't change the dynamic as much as I thought it would, and I think there's more to it. I'm addicted to it. I will never be able to afford it again if this second season doesn't get picked up. So I'm trying to enjoy it as I have it.
Well, you have a lot of some big name guests, and I'm curious about whether you're doing the booking yourself or who's doing that for you.
I'm doing the booking myself. Yeah.
Okay.
I just became kind of like E-list famous, I would say, just enough to where, I was broken in a public spectacle to where people kind of just like gravitated toward me. And, I became friends with a lot of people who experienced similar stuff.
I think there's a lot of space for that in the world, but like, are you doing, so Quinn, as you can tell, and I don't have a really rigorous method for preparing for the interviews or in any way.
I could tell by your headwear,
Yes.
Just like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I mean,
This is like the last pair.
I didn't know if that was like a bit for like the mom thing, right?
No, actually, AJ,
We live the
and you
bit.
should
It's very meta, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Emily Gould would know this, but young people are wearing like these kind of headphones these days. So I'm actually ahead of things. I bet your daughters would be impressed by me and probably be like,
maybe.
late. But yeah, talk about how much you're preparing for them. Are they giving you green lights on what you can touch on with them? Because talking about recovery is sensitive stuff.
It's funny because I guess it was like 6 months ago. Ozzy is my oldest, and he was 8, and he just asked randomly, "When can I be an alcoholic?" And I was just like, "Well, you're in luck."
Yeah, right.
But
you already are. You just haven't tried it yet.
Some people suggest that this gets passed down, but I was a little taken back by that. Wasn't the question I was preparing myself for, right? But the reason he knows what that word is because he knows I go to meetings, and he knows when I go to meetings and when I had meetings. So he's used to that. And I made the decision that, this year will be my 10 years of sobriety in July.
Congrats.
And
that's awesome.
Thank you. And I'm going to bring them and my wife to like the little birthday celebration, which in my first few years in recovery, when I saw people do that, I was embarrassed on their behalf. I was just like, how can you expose your kids to this? Because now they'll be poisoned and think about this the whole entire time. You're basically kind of letting them into a world which kind of absolutely predisposes them to addiction in a way that's scary. And I don't want to have that conversation. But, I changed it mostly because it's like, okay, I need to show them some perseverance and ability to change and ability to get through bad things. That's my hope in exposing them to that as early as I possibly can. But I mean, who knows? I mean, I am scared of them becoming teenagers for sure. And my oldest is kind of acting in that way a little bit already. I can just tell what he's been exposed to at school so far. And I could tell, who are the kids with Apple Watches and who are the kids who are not, right? And I'm like, oh man, I feel more nervous about the internet conversation than I do the alcoholism conversation.
Well, the internet, I mean, alcohol is very kind of cut and dry. There's no, you never
pretty
turn to
known
alcohol
entity.
for like, you're not doing your homework. You have beer while you do your homework, and you're
Right.
not, you don't have to go to liquor store in order to access your medical records. So there's not yet, but I don't know where you guys are with screens and stuff. The slide is so slippery, and no matter how high your horse is, because our older one he has a laptop and he has an Apple Watch, and we have come so far from it. We'll never let him sleep with the device in his room. We're going to check all the messages. We're going to check everything. And I can't even explain like how easy it is to just let it go, but you just can't control. If you're going to control all of that, you have nothing else you can take care of.
What's one more
That's
thing
right.
for the fucking parents to do? I'm not going to go on my
Exactly.
tirade of like how this has been completely put on us on purpose, but that's exactly what that's the whole point, is they're just like, they're going to give up. They fucking give up on everything.
Who is the they in this? Is it like Apple? Are we blaming Tim
It's
Cook here?
It's fucking all of them. Yeah. I mean, clearly Tim Cook has bent a fucking knee at this point. But
Well, you finally got rid of him, Quinn. Good
yeah,
for him.
you're
Good
right.
on you.
There you go.
But I mean, on the other hand, like AJ, I've known you for over 20 years online. AJ used to have a alternate personality that he used to write experimental poetry and send it to me. Like, this is back in the days when we had day jobs and nothing to do except have a good time online.
That was my attempt at wooing.
Yeah.
Basically writing, quasi like ironically racist poetry to Clarence Eniador.
It was like dirty and abstract at the same time. I still have them in my old Hotmail. Anyway, one thing I was thinking about AJ that's kind of ironic is that two of your baseline career moves in your life were Deadspin doing sports and also Object, right? Gambling for Gawker. And I don't know about you. I am really scared about the kids, the boys, and sports betting, actually. Like, and I don't know. Does that come up very much in the recovery meetings? That I know we're going all over the place, but they really all do connect.
It's fine. Does it come with the recovery meetings? No, but it does come up with Ozzy because he watches sports so much, and there are DraftKings commercials every like third commercial, right? And he just thinks it's so normal. And he asked me, and I mean, he asked me, if I bet, if I gamble, he kind of knows it's a little illicit, but my prediction is it's going to be outlawed again, probably in 5 years. I think.
I hope so.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's going to be some people that step in, and especially just like some of the, the owners of like various sports teams and the commissioners are going to see that like this is actually damaging to the game in a lot of ways. And there are players getting busted, and it's a lot easier. There's going to be a lot more, schemes that happen. I mean, there's already been players that are throwing games and shaving points and things like that. And it's very easy to do now.
Yeah, there used to actually at least be friction to it. I was
There
at
was.
ESPN when you were
had to
Deadspin,
you had to
and
like, rope in the mafia and things like that. And now you don't. Yeah. Now you can just get somebody's cousin to kind of sit there and say, okay, here's the spread. You should be injured for this game.
Yeah, Quinn, I forget that you were at ESPN. To forget that you also had that background
1,000 years ago. And, I remember our holy war with the NFL where, well, not even actually really wasn't with the NFL for once, even though they now own part of each other, which is fucking incredible. There's a case going towards the Supreme Court to decide whether fantasy sports, which was my job, was skill or luck. And we were like, this is going to change everything. The idea that gambling would ever leave the physical geographic location of Jersey and Vegas wasn't even on our fucking radar.
That's right. That's right.
And now you're just like, oh, it's not great. It is a fucking disaster.
I mean, my son has his first fantasy baseball team, and it's great that he's terrible at it. Like, he's really frustrated by the whole entire thing. So, which I think is good. Because I think if he was good at it, then I know he's very monomaniacal about some things. And I know that kind of just, he fixates the same way I do. I can tell, he's probably going to have a little bit of issues in certain things in his areas of life. But I also know how he sees me watch sports and how he sees me interact with sports in a way that I never knew was potentially influencing as much as him. But, then once, by my children repeat phrases just like, God damn it and Jesus Christ. And it's basically because anytime I watch sports, I'm like, oh, all of this stuff is basically leaving some sort of imprint on them in a way that I never really assumed would be the case at this point.
Oh, yeah.
That's really charming, though. But also the thing with, I mean, not to wildly generalize, but I will. It's funny to see little kids do the man thing where, you know how guys are on like sports talk radio and they think they know everything and have all the insight and all the judgment, and it lasts forever. It reminded me of like a couple of years ago when James, I think, and his friends were like 8. They were talking about how overrated Patrick Mahomes is. And I think he just won like his second Super Bowl, maybe. And
Sure.
I was like, you guys can't even fucking tie your shoes. And you are like, you don't even know what it is to be rated, let alone overrated. But just like the bullshittery and like the kids always, and it's kind of cute in a weird way, even though it's, I don't know. It reminded me of my dad just the other night. The White Sox lost, I think, in extra innings by 1 after being up 6-0. And my dad, who's 78, was like, I don't even care anymore. I don't even care. I just can't believe they lost. And it was just very childlike and charming at the same time.
Our version of that, I'm glad I stopped screaming at the screen like I used to because I'm too tired and don't give a shit anymore. Also, my team was the Redskins, and there was enough Dan Snyder that I was finally like, you know what? I'm just out. So that was actually really helpful. But my version of the overrated thing, Claire, I might have told you this story, how recently my 13-year-old, sometime in the past year, oh, you know what it was? It was at Christmas. The Mariah Carey song comes on, right? And it's playing, objectively great song as they run into the ground. Of course, this and that, all the dreams. It ends, and he goes, man, can't believe she was a one-hit wonder. And I was like, excuse me? You don't have, someone taught you that phrase. You're trying it out. And she has more #1 songs than the fucking Beatles, but you're an idiot. And you're just throwing this out there. According to you, and just, God, if I'm not a big fan with kids of the rule of if, that's then what else? I'm like, what else do you firmly believe that's completely fucking wrong?
That's amazing. AJ, I want to go back to Ozzy, though, too. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but I realized this with our kid with ADHD. And Quinn, I don't know if your kids are like this, too, but it never occurred to me how sports and neurodiversity can really go hand in hand in terms of, I think I've seen Instagrams even about how the best baseball players have had to be like a little bit autistic in terms of like the things that you care about and the things that you notice. And James,
baseball is literally a sport for autistic people. Like, it is the most ridiculous sport.
He has, there's lists and stats like all over the house. It's like the GIF from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He's making these like maps and things like that. And he kind of acts like I'm an idiot. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm making a lineup. We're not playing a game or anything like that. But
he hasn't eaten in 3 days, but he's making a lineup.
If he can get paid for this somehow, that will be.
No, I've got so many lineups on my notes app that are basically put there. Yeah, I mean, it's so funny the things that he loves playing baseball and he loves baseball, the sport in a way where he's a stat guy. I mean, he knows basically every single lineup. I let him play MLB The Show, right? I mean,
my guy saw a commercial for that recently, and they were like, "Excuse me, what the fuck is that? Can we have that?" And I was like, "No, because once you let it in, guys, that's it."
This is the only game I won't let him have first-person shooter games or anything except baseball. But I mean, here's why.
Okay.
Because, and I said this to my wife because she was basically anti-PlayStation. I said that. Here's the thing. He's going to really love sports and love players in a way because he starts playing this. Because then, once he sees kind of like video game characters in real life and he understands exactly that you can actually play this, he's going to be super into it. And I was right. God damn it.
Yeah, but no, you are right. And it is like the choosing the evil, right? It's either that or actual gambling and drugs, basically, at this point.
And the thing that I absolutely, love about him in terms of just what his personality is, he absolutely is learning empathy in a way about players that I think is actually something that'll be useful to him. I mean, he goes to the other side too. I mean, he really lays into people in terms of, he was very happy Rob Thompson got fired. And I'm like, come on, man, he's a nice guy. And I'm like, but he's also, starting when the Phillies lost to the Dodgers last year. And I gave him the option to basically be a Dodgers fan. I'm like, look, this is a great time to be those guys' fans, but he's adopted the Phillies. And when they lost in the playoffs last year, I was filming it thinking that something good was going to happen, and it didn't.
Yeah, how's he handling this year?
Well, not well. But I mean, there was a point last week, and he was just like tearing up, and he says, "I don't think they'll ever win again." And I'm like, maybe, but this is what it means to be a fan.
Yeah,
you have ups, you have downs.
This is what happens.
He was inconsolable and just really, really full on tears and screaming. And I'm like filming this, and I didn't mean to. And then he saw me filming him, and I mean, he was like Sean Penn in the '80s with paparazzi. Get the fuck out! I mean, but I felt terrible about it. But the thing that is there is just like, all right, he cares about something that's not TikTok, YouTube, like a lot of things. I talked to a lot of other parents at school. It's just, they're not into anything except the garbage that I feel like I'm fearful of. So I feel very fortunate that he's into kind of stuff that I'm into.
No, Claire and I talk about this all the time, which is you have to offer an alternative. And at some point you were like, oh, I know this is, well, quote unquote addicting. But again, the rest of that shit is so not real. Great. If they're into actual real people on the field, great.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm being very strategic about this. I will say, because I mean, Claire, I don't know if you feel like the same way. I feel like the internet, that I've been kind of, grown up in it a little bit and seeing kind of just, the harm in it, at least in terms of just like how it's shaped my personality and my professional life for sure. Right. That I'm almost, I'll use this example. So there's like a Roku sort of kind of janky ass Who Wants to Be a Millionaire quiz show game. And he began playing that for a little while, and I hear him reading out the questions. And it's just, which professional wrestler kind of just like that? And then he says, hey, Hulk Hogan. And I'm like, no. And like, because I'm not ready for the Hulk Hogan.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just like, yeah, it's The Rock. It's The Rock. Just turn it off. But that sort of, story seems so long and complicated. But he also knows who he is because he turns on Netflix and there's a documentary there. I'm like, it's kind of crazy that I have to have, the sex talk, the drug talk, and the Hulk Hogan talk at some point, right? And how much am I just, overcomplicating that and a little paranoid about it? And how much of that is real, right? Because, I mean, I feel like even once they start typing, I get so mad that they use iPads at school and everything like that. I'm like, no, this is a door I don't want them walking through at this point, right? I want to have a sit down and a conversation. And Julianne's the same way. I mean, obviously, Julianne was like a huge star on Twitter when that was a thing. And that's obviously shaped her professional life in a lot of ways. But, the thing that I don't know yet is just, how I know how it makes me feel, right? And I think I'm overreacting. I definitely know it because of just like a personal experience. But I don't want to infect that with my own shame and paranoia and things along those lines, because I know it's unique too.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's a very unique story where it's just like, here's the worst case scenario of what could possibly happen.
Yeah. But I mean, everybody, unless you've, yes, your story for sure, but all of us of the same age, it's the whole, like, what's the phrase? There's always a tweet. It's like, somebody pops up and someone does a search and immediately it's like, they hearted a Nazi tweet. Great. Like they're out, it's like everybody's got at least one of those somewhere. It's like, we're all just, we're of the age. Like it's crazy, but luckily.
How many Nazi tweets did you guys heart? Jesus. I mean, what kind of podcast is this?
I have found and deleted most of them.
Yeah.
I found it and deleted
most of them. Did it to me again, Claire. Like I walked into this. Yeah.
But it is, you're right. I tell them all the time. I'm like, guys, look, I love technology. It's great. I would also throw my phone in the fucking ocean and go back in a heartbeat. The internet has done incredible things for the world and ruined everything. And I don't know, man. It's hard. It's a hard one.
Yeah.
Right.
AJ, as an aside, real quick, I had my days counter up, and it's been over 5 years since I've had a drink. And Paul told his friend, bro hasn't had a drink for over 5 years, meaning me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put-
But anyway,
Put that on your
That's
medallion.
cool.
Fuck yeah.
but they will be like, you're always on your computer. You're always on your phone. And we're like,
That's-
yeah, I agree.
I get that too. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
Don't be like me.
Juliet and I are both, on, he told me, my son told me just, well, you're addicted to Instagram. And I felt ashamed where I'm like, because I'm like, of all the things that he catches me looking at all the time, I'm like, God, do I have to get a brick for the Instagram? Because I don't feel like I'm an Instagram guy at all.
No,
you know?
no.
I don't
He's
feel
just
like that's a
throwing things.
problem.
No, he's just trying to tear you down because he's your son and you're his dad, and that's what boys do. So if it wasn't Instagram,
Well, yeah.
James threw something at Paul. Oh, Steve was telling James he doesn't eat enough or he doesn't sleep enough, something, and James said, "Well, you take naps."
Oh, he's been holding on to that shit for a while. That's it. Fuck this guy.
I
and his
think it's
naps.
crazy that you nap, by the way. So I understand like where he's coming from. But like the one thing that happened, this was 2 years ago. My youngest son and daughter go to a different school than Ozzy. He goes to public and they go to private. And then she came into the car one day and she's like, Dad, in school today, they did an exercise where we typed our last name into the computer to see what came up.
That's
And-
psychotic.
That's what, and I, and she's just like, and we saw a picture of you smoking a cigarette. And I'm like,
Well-
that's I'll take that. But
Yeah.
Does the story stop there? Like, are we good?
But yeah. But I mean, the thing that I realized, and Claire, I don't know if you feel the same way or you do, Quinn, is just like when they do there are emails CC'd with parents, and this happens in Little League or your Goldies League, and my name's there. I Google people. And I'm like, fuck, there are absolutely people that know all my shit. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do I interact with the world? I had a guy on Little League on Saturday who said, he saw a podcast interview I did with Alex Winter. And I'm very withdrawn. I don't interact with any parents at Little League games or everywhere. I am absolutely the guy that no one wants to talk to. And I've made it that way. It's an intentional choice that I've made. And he comes up to me and he's, and I saw your podcast. And I was just like, oh, I know that face. Right. It's just like,
That's
and then
amazing.
he's like, I was like, I really thought it was very sweet. The reason he said that was because he sounded like, I didn't know you could say words. I didn't know people liked you. Right. No.
For money?
Yeah. This is how I'm reading into it. But, it's funny to think that people aren't doing the same things that I do, that when I see names on an email list to all parents, especially out here, I basically go, what do they
sure.
do? What do they do? Is that
Yeah.
guy? And then, but it was great for me because one time we have a guy in our school who was a reality star who went through a huge public shaming. And I'm basically just, But I mean,
Okay.
other people have spoken about him, on their podcast. And I'm like, should I kind of pull this person aside and basically be just like, hey, man, I see you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm sure
Or
he'd love
something
that.
like that.
Everyone would love
Yeah,
that.
he's gonna be super
Yeah.
pumped to know that. Yeah,
Exactly.
that he knocked you off the
Like,
top of the reply
yeah,
all list.
I know. Yeah.
That is actually such a good subtopic. Like there is a dad at our school, and I won't go into the details of how I Googled him because it might be revealing, but I ended up finding out that this guy's father had murdered his mother in a very high profile trial. And yeah, exactly. And
Right.
I am really proud of the fact that I have not mentioned this to the kids, because obviously if you mention it to the kids, it's going to be all over the place. But I'm just like,
Exactly.
that's when reporting comes into play. That's when all of our decades of journalistic integrity really comes to the forefront, is like looking
Right.
up who these people are.
I'm
and
gonna
our
sit on
kids.
this one.
Quinn, if I found out you worked at ESPN, I mean, I would feel like, oh man, this guy's got an opinion of me that's not great. Right.
No, I get it. I don't have anything like that, anything specific like that, but I definitely, again, after all of our years in LA and all of the mostly wonderful friends we've worked with, and again, emails or projects or this, you can't not be a part of it. I told Claire how recently my 10-year-old recently told my wife he wished she was a janitor because she would be less easy to Google. So that was fun for her. But I'm like, what do? You can't put it back in the fucking box.
Nobody is thinking about me as much as I am, right? I mean, I understand this, but I always feel, and this happened a lot, and soon after the trial where I was convinced everyone is looking at me and calling me an asshole in their head and then like asking me things. And it only happened a couple times, but I was so
It only
convinced
actually
that I
happened a
had to-
couple times. You only
Yeah.
thought it a couple. Okay.
Yeah, no, it actually happened where people said, I know who you are. Right. But like the thing that I had this need to explain myself, like preempt any sort of stuff that people thought about me, which made me sound crazy. Right. I mean, in the voice, I'm like, I'm not Scott Peterson or anything like that. I was like,
Not yet.
no,
Growth mindset.
just
Right.
But it's also, lots of people didn't even know. I used to do this thing when I was living in Florida. I was in the middle of, treatment, and it was soon after the trial. So I was basically doing an outpatient thing in Florida, and I would get Uber rides. And, back then in Florida, especially, just they would be real conversational things. And they'd be just like, oh, what's your name? How you doing? What do you do for a living? And I would basically just like, well, I used to be a writer. And it's like, what do you mean used to be?
Right.
And then I would tell the whole story, and it would always be this humbling experience because I would say, I got sued for $115 million by Hulk Hogan. And they would basically just like, oh, so you met Hulk Hogan?
Mhm.
That would be the only thing they took away from it the whole entire time. So it's just this thing that I have to get used to the fact that there are people in the world and parents who probably have done more embarrassing and shameful things, but it's just not Googleable. And that also nobody is judging me as harshly as I am, right? And my kids will not either, right?
No.
Hopefully.
No.
Except
Well,
that
first of
janitor
all,
thing makes a lot of sense to me, though. Quinn. I mean,
whatever happened to you or you went through or you were a part of has been a million years of shame have eroded that in terms of our national consciousness, which is nice.
And-
But also as your friend, don't you feel like you are like distinctively already at least in a third act? Like you had Gawker, trial, and now you are building this media, I don't want to call it company, organization, platform to help people get better, discuss the act of
Empire.
recovery. Yes, exactly. A fempire, in fact.
Wait,
But,
Fempire was about my wife. Wait, you know that? That was the whole fucking thing, the picture in the New York Times.
No, I did not know that. Oh, okay. All right.
Google,
Well, that's what
this
I
is
mean.
the thing. Google
Okay.
Fempire. It was her
Okay.
and Diablo Cody and her friend Lorene Scafaria, who's great, whose birthday it is today, and Elizabeth Merriweather, who ended up making New Girl
New
and
Girl.
1,000 other things. Died for
Right.
sex recently, won a bunch of awards. Fempire. Their whole life, Fempire. My kids have Googled it 1,000 times, and my wife was like, it was a 1-hour photo shoot. Yes,
That's
we're friends,
amazing.
but no, please make it stop.
Yeah.
Well,
It never dies.
back to you, AJ. Empire, just a himpire.
Oh, I'm going to call it Fempire from now on. Yeah, I mean, I'm just getting used to that. I'm getting used to the fact that I guess was 10 years ago. I mean, I just participated in this, Hollywood Reporter kind of 10 years after the trial sort of kind of oral history thing. And I'm like, that's a decade. That's so long. And I've been basically doing, the small bow for 8 years, which is so much longer than I ever was a Gawker, right? And this has been such an important part of my life, but I always feel like I'm still putting an asterisk next to it in my head.
Into which
And
one?
I still get, well, I mean, I always think of it as just, I hate when people that have, had some people say that just, oh, is this like your redemption arc? Right. And I never planned it that way, but I can see how people would think that there would be, here's this thing that I had to do to kind of just, cleanse my timeline. Right. And it's been the opposite of that. I never tried to step on the gas with this thing. I never tried to kind of, build this out into something scalable, whatever the fuck that word means. And now I'm finally kind of embracing that side of this a little bit to try it out. But it took a long time, right? It took a long time because I was so paranoid that I didn't want to unlock this other kind of ambition monster inside me that was going to kind of take me back to a place where this wouldn't be an enjoyable job and this would turn competitive. It would bring out the uglier sides of me.
Right. Well, you used to work for, in the olden blogging days, if people aren't familiar, which it sound like I'm being ironic, but I'm sure there's some young people who don't know. But AJ worked in a model
How
where
many
it
young
was,
people follow? Are kids listening to this? Is this a kids podcast? What
Good
is
news.
this?
No, it's for parents, but teen pregnancy is way down. Our listeners are very old and tired.
If you try talking to a 40-year-old, they don't know anything. They are
They
like,
don't.
so you never know.
I've had that with, I've had, 35-year-olds and basically just, I've texted and I'd be just like, okay, well, let's hop on a phone call. And they'd be like, why?
You're like, well, first of all, I have to get my computer
Don't you
out
like
to
walking
look at
around
this.
talking to
Yeah.
people? No, nobody does. Yeah.
And you used to have to write to get clicks, right? And the aim was to get the most eyeballs per piece. And that was a working model that, like, even if you had a similar level of success, you and Julianne have 3 kids, and her career is not like something that's 9 to 5. So even if you got that kind of success, if you had to work that same model, you probably couldn't again anyway. And don't you think having kids is kind of a metaphor for this project where it's like it is what you make of it and it's sort of not
Yeah.
entirely in your control,
Well, it's amazing too, because I probably have maybe 3.5 to 4 hours per day max of work where it's just, you wake up, you do the morning routine, and then, I'm pickup guy. So on Tuesdays, my son gets picked up at 1:30, which is insane. So it's like a half day all the time. And then, it's either 1:30 or 2. So, I mean, I kind of have a 10 to 1 sort of work day, but I'm much more efficient than I ever would. I mean, just like when I have days off and just, I've got a full day to catch up on work. I do nothing. That's nap day for me. I do
Mm.
absolutely nothing. I dick around on the phone. So it's better for me that I have this sort of structure than it ever has been. But as far as clips, it's weird that I never actually played the page view game
Mm.
ever. I mean, I was always trying to get attention, right?
Yeah.
I loved attention. I always thought it was important for me to be the story as opposed to the story about that. I
Yeah.
loved that. But, and this has probably helped me out a lot, that I was just like, I need real life. So what's that thing in Always Sunny in Philadelphia where they're doing like the day man thing? He's just, I'm going for gasps. Right. And that's kind of my approach to things. Right.
Yeah.
So, but it's funny that, I have a business partner, Garrett, who loves to update me on how many subscribers we're hemorrhaging because we left Substack. Right.
Mm.
And I'm like, man, I don't give a shit about that.
Yeah.
It does not matter at all. Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to, tell him that much, but I mean, it doesn't. I mean,
Yeah.
these are just numbers. I mean, you know how, Evil Witches hasn't kind of busted out, but you've done that intentionally too. I remember we were talking about that.
Yeah.
But it's also just like you have such a vibrant and kind of active just readership where people care intimately. I'd rather have, 2,000 people who loved what I did versus 45,000 drive-by people.
Explaining yourself to someone who is not mostly already on board, You're like,
Yeah,
oh, if you're not
exactly. Yeah.
into it, we don't have to do
No,
this.
no, but I
Yeah.
mean, I think I've gone into it's just like your comment section, and I'm just like, oh, people are getting this intimately, and people wanted this in their life, right? And that's a similar way I feel about the small bow, where it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, here's something that people who weren't in traditional recovery had been kind of looking for. I call it, it's just like here's a place for kind of people who didn't have their place, who are just strange feeling more than
Mm.
addicted, really, right?
Yeah.
They can't really kind of qualify in any sort of direct way for anything. And those are the people that love it the most too.
Yeah. I haven't been to a meeting in a bit, but yours are the only meetings I've ever been to. And I feel the same way about your meetings as I do about church. I don't really have a good reason for why I do or
Yeah.
don't go, but I talk a little bit for anyone listening who is not really that familiar about the role, like how much you guys talk about sober parenting, like how much that
Yeah.
comes in meetings or groups, just people who might be listening who might be sober parenting curious.
Right. I mean, I think that sober parenting is really just distressed parenting. It's kind of, how do I not yell in the way that I want to? Right.
Mhm.
I mean, I have always kind of, judging my recovery based off of how much I yell at my kids and my dogs too. The dogs kind of get it worse sometimes. And the dogs are it's like always looking at me like, what the fuck's the matter with you? Just like, just kibble on the floor, man. But I mean, and that's really where it comes up. It's just, I do a lot of Al-Anon work. So the concept of reparenting is basically big. And I'm trying to kind of be a better parent to me than my parents were. And that's supposed to, translate over to how I parent my kids. So that's really what we talk about more than anything. It's not, I need to drink today because my kids were yelling. It's never like that. It's more about kind of just the emotional part of this, where it's just, oh, I can't have those road ragey moments that are coming from something darker place that's not related to them at all. Like it's basically how to kind of modulate those sort of emotions.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think, I mean, I remember, I think I interviewed you for Evil Witches, but the very first time, I don't know how many years ago, because the
Yeah.
idea of sober parenting was so unusual to me that I was like, I got to find these freakos who like are doing this without a
Right.
net,
Yeah.
and I'm not 100% sober at the moment. I wish I was. Part of me was like, I'm going to get like a lot of weeks under my belt with no THC to talk to AJ. So I'll be like, really deserve it. Didn't
Yeah.
come to that. But,
It'd be funny if I just slammed my laptop down right now. It's just like that.
yeah. Be like, tell everyone on your podcast that don't ever read
Yeah,
her or listen to
I
her.
know.
She doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. But yeah, because for me, at least for the first many years of parenting, drinking, I didn't really know how to drink until I had kids.
Because that's the thing that I'd never experienced is basically having kids and drinking and all the stuff that I used to do. I mean, but it's weird. I could imagine doing it because I think of it the way, because I stopped smoking 3 months before our first son was born. I don't know how I did that because, I felt like I was going to have a life running outside to basically just try to feel better about things and the way I used to change my emotions than the way that I did, to feel better. And now I just need different ways of doing that. Right. And most of the time it requires me calling other dudes who are dads and basically that's it. That is like the thing that helps the most. Right.
And do you just say, yellow flag day, I need some, how are you doing? What do you put out there?
I put out there, and this happened last year where, my son was kind of, bullied at an all-star tryout.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
And I wanted to get, full on like drive into the coach's car because it was the coach's son who did it too.
Oh.
And I was just like, I wanted to basically just, drive a car through their garage. Right. I felt, all of this pain and my son was handling it pretty well, but it was one of those things where I'm just like, oh, I need a reminder that this is not me. I'm not the one being impacted here. I'm not that like I can't basically co-opt this experience and basically just make it about whatever I felt like when I was a 9-year-old. And this is not taking care of the bullies that are in my head all the time. That's what I really need help with because I mean, that's the way that I can kind of act out at them when I hear myself like I hear my dad sometimes pop out where I'm just like looking at him and just, come on, don't be a pussy. And
Oh,
I don't say that, but I mean, I'm
right.
like thinking it sometimes. And I'm like, that's exactly what brought me into these rooms to begin with. So I can't do that. So I have to talk.
Right.
And those are the types of conversations that I have.
Good. Why is baseball so fucking heartbreaking and fraught for men? I mean, and then women also as well, but not to the same extent. I'm just like, as
Right.
an example, Paul's team was in the championship for Little League a couple years ago, and my dad was at the game. And instead of being excited that his grandson was in this championship game, my dad was only worried that the team would lose and Paul would be the reason why they lost. So crazy to
I
me.
think that
It
was
is
one of the
crazy.
first things
Yeah.
you and I ever talked about. And I just remember
Yeah.
being like, yep.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's happened last night where it's like it was a close game in the last inning and I see, him in the batting order coming up and I'm just like, God, please just let this end before he can don't let him bat. Don't let him bat. Don't let him bat. I can't deal with him striking out in this position. This is too much pressure.
Because it's like, I mean, and of course it's like all on you. I mean, it's just, I know the same feeling. Yesterday at the volleyball game, Paul was only put in for one play, but all the girls were there. And whether they were being funny or they meant it, they had started chanting, "We want Paul," because he hadn't been put in the game yet. So they put him in. He did exactly one play. He did it
It's
successfully and
literally
got taken
Rudy.
out.
It's
And
the
I
plot
was,
of Rudy. Hold on a minute.
I haven't seen
Yeah.
Rudy.
But did you hear the thing about Rudy that absolutely just, broke my heart? Because like Joe Montana was on that team, right? Joe Montana was basically just like the backup quarterback at that point. I think he was a freshman in that year. And he's just like, yeah, we carried him off the field, but we were just fucking around.
Oh,
They were basically making fun of
Joe,
Rudy.
Joe,
Yeah,
sit on it, man. Come
I
on.
know. Yeah, you're just
So,
like, yeah, he
yeah.
was kind of an asshole.
Nice. Retired athletes really don't give a fuck. But but it's the same thing where I was like, please don't let him fuck up in front of these girls. And who cares? I don't remember anything
Yeah.
about what I taught about boys when I was in 8th grade, but just it is too much. But again, it's baseball is way more fraud. I don't know how it ended up being that way. I don't know. Like every sport carries the same amount of emotions.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing that I really remember, one of my most vivid memories, because my dad was the best at making me feel worse than was necessary for, all my fuck ups in sports. And I still, like, in my nightmares, I remember, him coming to my games, and then it's just like completely just changing my whole entire approach to everything, just being anxious and like and just like, I did not want him there because he would make me feel so bad if I did poorly. Right. And so that's the thing when, when Ozzy does have a bad game or something like that, I am like right in there, basically just, all right, let's get McDonald's, let's get baseball cards. I
Yeah.
am not going to let him kind of just make him feel like that this is something that's going to kind of, scar him for life.
You're
Right.
not
Or
taking him to the
yeah.
diamond to drill him with balls until he can stop fucking up and start making you proud.
Oh, we do that too.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I get it. I mean, and it's the same thing. It's, well, you have to remind yourself, you're like, this is just a pile of disappointments that, will follow the kid, but also maybe not. Maybe there won't be, you never know. It's always refreshing when you're like, are you okay? And the kid is like, we stopped caring about that 25 minutes ago or whatever.
I mean, it's so crazy that, you look back and I see my little league experience, which I mean, I played, it's like I played all-star level between 12 and 16. It was a fun experience for me. But, and he started to, because they had, all-star tryouts again, and he's waiting to find out if he made it. And he's just like, did you make the all-star team? I'm like, I did. He's, what position you play? Like center field. And he was really impressed. Well, because I was 12, and that seems very old to him, like borderline professional.
Sure. Yeah.
Like
yeah.
you
Like,
played
why
at a
didn't you
high
make
level
it?
for
Why
that
don't we
long?
have a totally different life, Dad?
But it's also one of those things where I'm just like, oh, this is a moment that I can actually enjoy my athletic prowess in a way that's just like, but I'm just watching him. I'm like, the thing that is going to hurt me the most, if this stops being fun for him. If he somehow hates baseball because he's not picked for something, or he's not one of the best players on the team, because eventually that will happen.
Well,
right?
yes. And my kids are, who knows what they are, 11, 12, 13, whatever. And we've had the talk a little bit recently about you're still choosing the sports or events or whatever.
Yeah.
At some point, just so you know, so it's not a surprise, they will choose you. And that's a little harder. And it's that way with band or whatever, Oh, it's sweet, you're playing the saxophone. Eventually someone's gonna be like, you should stop. You should not do this anymore. And, or whatever, but it's gonna happen. And every time they kind of make a team or whatever, you're like, okay, good. But our 3 rules are, for whatever they do, is try your hardest, which is different than do your best, because not in your control if it's your best sometimes. Be the best teammate you can be, which includes being like not a fuck up to the coach.
Exactly.
And have fun. And I'm like, if you're not doing those, well, one, if you sign up for something I've paid for it, you're fucking finishing the season. But otherwise, like, if those things aren't happening, that's fine. I don't care if you're the slowest kid, as long as you're trying your hardest. You're cheering on the other kids and having fun. I will never give a shit. I have seen the dark side of all the sports. I'm like you. So like I played baseball and swam in college, did all the stuff. My dad fucking rode me on all of the things. And I got a note, Claire, I don't remember if I told you about this one, from my oldest, now 13. He was probably, I don't know, man, 11. And again, like, I don't spend a lot of time talking about the old days, like, whatever. And he had a rough, truly, like, little league tryout. Everyone makes the team. It's like a grounder, a fly ball. You get a couple swings, you throw it, and that's it. I woke up to a little handwritten note under my door, and we hadn't talked about it, like, at all. And he was like, Dad, I'm really sorry I'm not as good as you were. And like, I don't know if I'm going to do this and I want to live up to it. And I was like, if I wasn't already committed to not doing the whole thing, now I'm just like, full stop. Are you, what? I was like, what happened to make you feel like you had to write that? I was like, because we're not going down that fucking road, man.
Man, why do you think? Because this is the thing. They do have, they've an all-star travel team at 8 and under, which is way too young. Kids pitch is crazy.
I'm coaching it right now. It's crazy.
But they don't even teach them how to pitch. So it's basically like body bag games, like everything, where it's just like everybody's getting hit. And so we had these tryouts last weekend, and the coach comes up to like all the parents in the stands, and it's just, we have 28 kids trying out. We have 24 spots. There's the math. And, you're kind of just like sitting with it. And
For
the whole
what
time
age?
I'm like, what's it? Not 8.
Oh, jeez. Fuck off. Like that
Yeah,
shit.
well, that's the thing. And I'm sitting there the whole time watching this tryout, and I'm basically just, is he the 24th best player out there right now? And I feel like he is, but, he's on the cusp, right? I mean, it's just like this could go some way. This could be like a political thing, and then he doesn't get chosen for this. But like after I told him, and he had a really great tryout, he really did. And I just told him, I was just like, well, you belong here, right? That's it. That's all I can tell him, because the rest of it is completely out of my control. And I'm not going to freak out if he doesn't make it,
Yeah.
but he does belong there for sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
I hope
God.
he
But
makes it.
Eight,
Yeah.
That shit
travel
drives
team.
me fucking
No,
Travel
it's
team all-star.
I'm not surprised. My friend's son, I told Quinn this before. My friend's son didn't make the tryouts for travel some years ago, and he was sobbing in his bed. And she's on the one hand relieved that he didn't make the team, and then on the other hand already reading the coach's copious notes on how her son could do better, and being like, should I email the coach about what, already torn between, not that she wants him, but she just doesn't want him to be sad, and it is, you guys
Oh.
are both really good dads. I just want to tell you guys that you guys are very thoughtful.
I'm going to make that my
like,
ringtone. Thank you.
Sweet. Yeah, put it on there. I'm not going to say it again. But I have a question for you guys, kind of related to sports, but also about being a guy, a former teenage boy, that is. So he's 13, he's almost 14, and he's not that bad, but part of his adolescent attitude is sort of acting like he doesn't give a shit about things that he prior gave a shit about. And I know that's how teens are, but it's really annoying when you are facilitating the thing that he doesn't give a shit about. So this
Yeah.
took the form of volleyball recently, where he was saying how nobody cares. They don't take it seriously. And for parents who have been sitting through double games back to back out in the suburbs, you're like, I don't care if you really give a shit, but at least don't tell me that to my fucking face. And anyway, I'm having a hard time walking the line of snapping at him all the time about this kind of like ingratitude, but also, or ungratefulness, but also being like, this is the age. This is what they do. It could be so much worse. So I don't know how to when to know when to take it personally and when to be like, I guess this is just like a semi-asshole phase and to just let him cook.
Sure.
My short answer, as we've talked about, is you get to feel all your fucking feelings. You don't get to be a dick. And then you're invading on my fucking experience. You got your hormones, you got your emotions, you're tired, you're hungry, you got dumped, you're horny. Like, I don't fucking care, but you don't get to take it out on everybody. Family, for whatever reason.
When I was in my young teenage years, I mean, I look back on that, and I was a good kid, but my parents made me feel like I was not, and I wasn't rebelling in any sort of way. And I had this very vivid memory where I was playing 4 sports, and I was like in jazz band, and I had friends, but I mean, I was also kind of a 80s metalhead. So I basically was kind of obsessed with all these bands that my parents thought were scary, and thought I was headed down the wrong path. And I got a C in English or something like that. And my father put my guitar in his trunk. But it was one of those things where I'm just like, oh, well, like, why should I love anything? And I remember my dad demanded that, we talk to my guidance counselor. And my mom, having this conversation, and I remember it in the kitchen, and my mom hanging up the phone, and my dad's, we're ready to have this conversation. My dad was ready to kind of send me to private, to
Military
what's it called?
school.
Catholic school. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my mom comes over and just, well, the guidance counselor said, just, okay, your son, plays athletics, is in jazz band, and has friends, and he is mostly doing great in school. What's your problem? And that was the message relayed. And I still remember that because that was the first time an adult stuck up for me, because my parents sucked at it. They
Yeah.
really did. I look back, I mean, I didn't become a problem until I was 30. That's when I started to rebel,
Yeah.
really. But I mean, through 13, through 15, 16, I mean, I was kind of softy. I was a good kid. I wanted people to like me a lot. I wasn't doing anything that, I didn't have a bad attitude.
Yeah.
I just got left behind. in a lot of ways. That was when I started getting cut from teams. And that was when, I started to kind of feel like, oh, I don't have any friends and all this stuff. I was really lonely and my parents made me feel like it was my fault. Sorry to be a downer on this podcast.
No.
No,
Jeez,
not
sorry,
at
friends.
all.
No, but
Yeah.
that's a good reminder, though, that I'm like, okay, Paula doesn't have any real problems. And again, part of the point of having a parent is to like gently push against them. I'm sensitive lately because he's been like moping about family stuff. It was Grandparents' Day this week at school. And like, I don't know if you knew, AJ, my mom had like a medical whatever meltdown. And so they basically had no
Right.
local grandparents at the moment who can function. And Paul said it didn't matter, but then he's like, so-and-so's grandparents are so funny and active. And then like, why are we having a big graduation party for me? And, whatever. I know that's just like comes with the territory that no 13-year-olds be like, thank you every day for everything that you do for me. And no other notes.
It's hard.
But
It's the whole thing where people are like, where did the child I had go type of shit, however it went. It's 13 yeah. I mean, it was the opposite. I was this tall when I was 11. Crushed I did not make a team, girls, whatever the thing was.
Yeah.
I was a dick bag. Now I get emails about my 13-year-old's report cards come in, and he literally has a 100 in every grade. And I'm like, you are having a fundamentally different experience than you did. Because I was like, I'm not going to do anything for the next 7 to 8 years, guys. I'm going to be really honest with you. If it doesn't involve fingering a baseball or something else, I'm out. I'm sorry. Which is, I understand why everyone was mad at me.
Every 10 minutes, I'm like, what the hell kind of podcast is this? Like,
yeah. Welcome to the danger zone. Yeah. We're on drugs. So we're not like your podcast where you have to make
sober.
sense.
Right.
Yeah. Speaking of, can I change the subject slightly to, I mean, we're still talking about kids, but AJ, I just wanted to hear briefly about how life is going as a parenting expert with an advice column over at Slate. Tell me what that's been like.
It is, honestly, it is the most fun I've had writing on the internet in probably 25 years.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. It's basically just these absurd questions. And I'm pretty sure half of them are fake, but you get to like answer this stuff in a way which, I really point it back to my own parenting. Like there is this one question, this week where like a woman who wasn't a parent was asking if it's okay to say no to other people's kids, or just like kind of if they are disruptive in a space, like, can I kind of discipline them in their own way? And I said, yeah, it's within your right. Just don't do it to my kids. Basically, right?
Yeah.
Because I hadn't experienced it. And I said it like 6 months ago. We went to a restaurant and there was a single stall bathroom. So all three of my kids basically go to the bathroom at the same time. And so what an 8, 7, and 6-year-old basically all go into the bathroom at once. There's this guy at another table who I heard kind of being like obnoxious to the server, and it already kind of stuck in my head. And then he walked over to like the bathroom, right? And they're messing around waiting for the little, and he says, all right, come on, guys, no messing around. And I was like Russell Crowe in basically LA Confidential during the interrogation scene, where just like ready to fucking dunk this guy in the toilet, right? And he was in the right.
Yeah.
Correct.
They were messing around way too long, but it's just one of those things where it's just this primal rage which comes up where I don't know. I remember distinctly the first adult who made me feel very small and yelled wasn't my parent. Like, it's a bad feeling, right?
Yeah.
And I think it just, when I saw that happening in real time, I'm basically defending myself when I'm like 9 years old or whatever.
Yeah. No, it sucks. I still remember very clearly, like when James was a toddler, we were at some restaurant in Maine and he was so wiggly, and some guy and his wife moved tables to get further away from us. And my feelings were so hurt. And also I completely understood at the same time.
Right. You were like, take me with you.
Yeah,
Fuck
exactly.
you, take me with you.
Yeah, fuck you. And I don't blame you one bit. But yeah, so AJ, do you choose the questions or does your editor float them to you?
They give me, the list of the questions. They're usually 3. And, I get to respond to them. But I mean, it's so fucking fun. It is just super kind of like old school blogging where I get to make jokes and it's not like as heavy as, all the stuff that I'm used to writing about now.
Yeah.
And I'm also just, I don't know why I have suddenly, gained this status where I have answers to these questions. I never struggle. I'll ask Julianne, but to help me out with certain things, but they're mostly jokes. I
Yeah,
usually have an answer to stuff, and they're not necessarily the right answer, but
sure.
they are pretty much, this is how I would react in this situation.
Yeah, we had Emily Gould on some weeks ago, and she, she might have had the same gig. No, she had one for New York Magazine for the cut,
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
but she was saying how like you're writing not so much for the person writing to you, but for the whole audience, and so the pressure's not necessarily on
Yeah.
to
No,
like
we've
diagnose.
swapped questions basically, just like to fill out our own,
Really,
columns.
really
Yeah.
cute. Tell me somebody who wrote in that stuck in your mind, their kid question or their parenting question.
Oh man, there were two. One, there was a person that was like a couple months ago who said that they caught their 8 and 9-year-old smoking a joint on their front lawn, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
because they were friends with a family who they were basically just, and they smoked pot all the time. And, their friend, they got some weed and they were smoking pot, and they're smoking
Oh,
pot on like the front yard. And, you know, I was shocked. I'm like, okay, I'm not prepared to have that sort of conversation with my 8-year-old at this point.
right.
But I also talked about it, and my response was basically just, okay, your kids aren't going to turn into Cheech and Chong over this, right? And don't punish the other parents. Don't make them lose a friend, right?
Um,
And so my editor writes me back that, when she published it, she was like, there are people freaking out in the comments because you're not explaining the dangers of drugs at this point in this stuff like that. And I'm like, do I need a fucking Surgeon General's warning to put in here? But I understand, because this is all these parents basically being fearful of their own kids. And they think I'm
mm,
putting out that advice of just, what are we supposed to do?
mm,
Punish them?
right.
Because I mean, they're still 8 and 9. It's crazy that they're smoking weed, but at the same
Yeah.
time, I'm not going to look at this as they're going to be turned into meth addicts, right?
Mm,
When they're 12. I
yeah.
don't think anybody should. But,
Right.
and the other thing was, and this I'm curious to how you guys would react, was this week, woman writes in and she's like, my husband's parents, right, were in charge of babysitting our kids, and they live in a beach town. And it's a 6 and an 8-year-old. And the grandparents took them parasailing without asking, their permission, right?
Mhm.
And she was livid. She was basically
Right.
just, they're like, they're not allowed to basically watch the kids solo ever again. I
Mm,
really want to tell them that. And I was like, okay, I understand that reaction, but also my question was like, were your kids scarred for life, or did they have the best time ever? Right?
yeah. Yeah.
That- Because it's, part of me is, okay, if they are experiencing that and they have fun, I'm like, okay, well, they're probably they're probably going to be adventurous and want to do things and basically have a lot less fear than I did at that age.
Yeah.
And just because you're afraid of what could possibly happen, nothing bad happened,
Right.
right? But
Also,
also
there
just
can
like,
be like a
put it,
middle ground, which is like maybe just ask next time.
that's what I
Yeah.
said. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I said. Yeah. I was
Yeah.
just like, just explain to, to your in-laws, okay, you know, scared, hurt, paranoid, all that stuff. Can you ask the next time?
Yeah.
But also, I mean, don't really kind of make them feel like they did something bad if they didn't.
Right.
It's one thing if these kids were terrified. He
Right.
didn't mention that. Didn't mention
Yeah.
that at all. I think that would
Right.
have been part of the question had, if they mentioned that. Then it's obviously, yeah, it's a different response. But for the most part, I'm just like, you should really encourage it. Just because we're afraid of something, don't make your kids kind of afraid of it just by default, right?
Yeah.
Because you want to
Yeah.
protect them. Yeah.
That's such an interesting because I feel like you hear a version of that question about a child trying to block babysitting from an in-law or parent, but it's usually for something like smoking or getting
Yes.
drunk.
Yeah.
I don't know what else, having a gun around. That's such a funny example. But yeah, if the kids had a great time, then like I don't know, you'd be like, that's random, but I'm glad you guys came back. But yeah, that is an interesting one.
Yeah.
Good for the kids who are having fun
That's
grandparents.
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's just, I said that the kids that I grew up with, the kids that were basically just, riding dirt bikes and going on roller coasters when, you felt like that was like the most dangerous thing in the world, were like some of the most well-adjusted
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
early.
Yeah.
The kids that were doing that at 9, at 12, they're basically just not fazed by anything, right?
No. Well, and at this time of our lives, anything can be dangerous. My dad was like I sent him a picture. We went horseback riding in Costa Rica with the boys. And then I said, we're going ziplining the next day. And he said, I wonder how safe ziplining is. And I wanted to be like, you think riding a bunch of horses with no helmets in
Yeah,
a
have you
foreign
met
country?
Christopher Reeves? What are you
Yeah, I
talking
was
about?
thinking about
Yeah,
Christopher Reeve the
exactly.
entire
Yeah.
time. But, you know, any bike riding, like e-bike riding, anything. So like I'm more scared of kids hurting themselves while sledding. I think when we talked about the great
Right.
dangers of sledding then.
I
So
would much rather my kid break an ankle wrestling in a tree with one of their fucking friends or whatever than get molested on Roblox. It's not even
yes.
close.
AJ, you would appreciate this. And we're going to wrap up in a second because my alarm just went off to remember to take my pills. But Paul, so part of
Again, this
his,
podcast,
yeah,
just the twists
exactly.
and turns. Like,
Yeah, time to drop acid because it's Friday, 1:15. Paul has a part of it, again, being their age, and I think just being boys is just constant bullshitting. And I think part of it is to see if it will trigger me or not. But he was saying how when he gets older, he's not going to smoke cigarettes, he's going to smoke cigars, and how
yeah,
he can't wait. And I almost started to explain that you inhale differently with cigars and cigarettes. And what he was saying, how much healthier cigars are than cigarettes. Anyway, it doesn't even matter. I didn't
yeah,
take him up on any of it because it was like 7:15 a.m. on a Tuesday. But just so you
yeah,
know, that Paul's plans is if you need to smoke cigars with someone, I know a child, a future adult will be there ready for
yeah.
you, ready and excited. AJ, I feel like we could talk about a lot more stuff, but we all got to go. I got to go take all my pills and my hallucinogens. But just real quick, Julianne, your wife, also a screenwriter like Quinn's wife, Dana. I love her newsletter so much. Are you reading her newsletter when it goes out? Like, how do you guys separate the streams?
She sometimes asks me for permission on
Mm,
stuff. And I said, I don't want you to ask me that, right? You're a writer and I understand that. And I also
yeah.
just, I have to trust you with some things, right?
Well,
And I will, right? And that's it. So yeah, sometimes when she asks me that, I don't read it, read those
mm,
newsletters. But
mm,
I think we have to kind of grow in a creative household. And I understand like, especially when she's not working, how stressful that is. And,
mm.
how bad she feels sometimes. So I'm not going to add to it. Like if she's writing, that's great. Like
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned. So,
Yeah.
you know,
What is she working on now?
pitching basically,
Okay.
shows. So,
Yeah. I also wanted to give you, I was thinking about this like while I was getting ready. You guys named your kids very well. Your kids all have like very distinctive,
thank you.
memorable names, but they're also like Quinn, they're Ozzy, Ivy, which is short for Iverson, and Levon, right?
Levon's a great name. Fuck. God damn it.
But here's a crazy thing. Cut to, 7 years ago, Thanksgiving, watching Last Waltz as,
As you
anyone
do.
like, any good white person does on Thanksgiving. But, and we were sitting there, we're like, why isn't there more Levons in the world? If we have another kid, we name him Levon. And we did.
Well done,
And
sir.
then we're also in Los Angeles. So now within a 2-mile radius, there are 3 fucking
Three Levons.
Levons.
Of course there
Yes.
are. You fucking assholes.
Oh,
And
you
they're
tried.
and they're all like, just, Last Waltz, Levon Helm.
Yeah.
Yes.
No,
worst.
well, I mean, it makes you feel better. AJ, I don't know if I ever told you this, but I used to fantasize about the daughter that I never had, and I was gonna name
Ew.
her April and give her the middle name Jay, and I
AJ.
thought it'd be
Yeah.
so cute to have a girl named AJ, but I never
Yeah,
came.
you did. You told me that.
Still
Yeah,
time.
you
I
remain
remember that.
the
Still
only
time.
AJ. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll get cracking.
Yeah.
AJ, so people should sign up for the Small Ball newsletter and subscribe to the podcast.
Absolutely.
What
Yeah.
else would they be doing? You have a book coming out. Wouldn't even talk about that.
It's fine, whatever. Just
But it's
I
exciting.
kind of it's a hard thing to do, as you know, right?
Yes.
So, but yeah, read my Slate columns and listen to my podcast. Or according to the people that are funding the podcast, you should watch it on YouTube, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Which I don't understand, but that is apparently the future. Then everyone has to get used to it. But
Well, I just want to say, I think the landscape of recovery is so much different than it was 15 years ago, 10 years ago. And a big part of that is you just kind of blurring the lines a little bit and breaking it down more and making it more accessible to everyone.
thank
And
you. It's
I
great.
I'm proud of you. And so if I was your child, I'd be proud to Google you. And
Thank
I'd
you.
say, thank you
That's
for
really
making
nice. That really
Peter
helps
Thiel
me.
a household
Yeah.
name. That is your main
Yeah.
takeaway.
No, thank you for being vulnerable about that. It matters. It goes a long way.
Do you guys have
Thank you,
anything else
Quinn.
you want to commiserate over between your 3 kids and boss wives before we say goodbye?
No, man, it's just, I don't know. I think it's just, I have to remember that only my job to be basically just a good man, whatever. And I have to figure out what that is constantly and basically just, recalibrate all the time. And that's all I can do. Right. That is
Mhm.
really it. I mean, it's just, I know I'm a good dad, weirdly enough. And I can say that without any level of arrogance just because I know I care. Right.
Mhm.
That's all you can do.
Yeah, you put some thought into it, which is what I say about evil witches. Is if you care about being a good parent, that pretty much gets you there.
Head to notrightnow.show for more, or send us feedback, questions, horror stories, doxing, whatever it is, at questions@notrightnow.show.